Hi, I'm Peter J. Ray. Welcome to Adventures in History. Today's topic is Dearest Mother and Dad. Love, Ruth, John, Mark, Pamela, Patricia, and Peter. 1962, Part 135. This is based on the first half of the original publication, Small Shaw Family Memories Collection, or SFMC number 55, published November 21st, 2000, in San Juan, Metro Manila, Philippines. Letter from the editor of the SFMC. Yours truly, Peter J. Ray. And so our story continues. As the John F. Kennedy administration continued in its second year, the Ray family story unfolds in all its many aspects. Here are highlights from this issue. Bud seemed to enjoy our porch this year where it is nice and cool. After a couple days at the Duffs. It was Patty's first time away from home and she didn't like it. Pamela asked me last night, "When you were a little girl, could you hardly wait until you could do your own housework and have your own family and wonder what it would be like?" Our goldfish died today and Peter said, "Fishy, fishy, night, night." It was floating on top of the water. Pamela also said, "You know, it really is better to give than to receive. I had a lot more fun getting and giving Uncle Bud his present than getting mine." Last week, Pamela and Patty went on the bus by themselves to Sandusky. I finished painting the mural on the girls' wall. We'll have John take a picture of it for you. Painted the girls as ballerinas. Mark and his boys' pirate boat float won first prize in the parade at Rocky River Day, $3 silver. We certainly do hope that you had a good trip back and not too tired from us all. You did look younger when you left than when you arrived, in spite of our lively crew. Patty began to cry the moment the plane left, wept all the way home, cried when she went to bed, woke up crying and wrote this letter as soon as she got home from nursery school. She only stopped weeping when I assured her you'd return. We're trying a rock garden. Our office party lasted until 3 o'clock a.m. and cleaned up until 5 o'clock a.m. and got up at 8:30. We all went to church and I taught Sunday school. Had a conference with Mark's teacher. She says he has great ability and is tops. Happy Thanksgiving, dear SFMC readers. Your faithful editor, Peter J. Ray, Manila, Philippines. 20689 Beechcliff Boulevard, Rocky River, Ohio, June 6, 1962. Dear Bud and Doris, We're delighted that you're having such a wonderful trip. Our neighbors just returned from the World's Fair exhausted. Beth slept for about 24 hours. They are from Canada. Our last vacation was the best I've had. Very lovely. We're so glad you are coming down and wondered if you could come either the weekend before the first or the one following. When Chris and Ken were here last summer, they invited us up over the Dominion Day weekend to Canada. We'd like to see you there too if you could make it. We'd like to see you both weekends if it were possible. I'm sure Pamela would be disappointed if you didn't come to visit us. We're having a busy, as usual, time. We had 30 Indian guides for a picnic Tuesday and a family on Wednesday. Friday, 2 couples in, and Saturday had a shower for our friends who just had their 9th child, at about 20 in. We went to a picnic Sunday, and John was pallbearer for Joan's mother Monday. We have the inaugural ball Friday, and John and Mark have a weekend campout, and next Saturday we're having 30 in, and Pam and Patty have a dance recital on the 17th, etc. Must say goodnight. Looking forward to seeing you. Love, John, Ruth, Mark, Pamela, Patty, and Peter. 20689 Beechcliff Boulevard, Rocky River, Ohio, June 25th, 1962. Dear Mother and Dad, we were very happy to see Bud this past weekend. He arrived Saturday morning, and on the way back from the airport, we went to see Mark at his baseball tea league. He hit a 3 base while we watched and said he'd hit 3 home runs. Bud seemed to enjoy our porch this year where it is nice and cool. After lunch, all 4 children were invited to a birthday party across the street by the lake, so Bud went along. After the party, we took him on a boat trip up the Cuyahoga River by the steel plants under all the Cleveland bridges. He seemed to enjoy it. Then John took us to Captain Frank's for dinner. We saw all Bud's slides and he saw ours. Good to see them. Bud hit Pam's birthday party after all. I made her a candy house cake. Bud blew up balloons again. The cake had candy canes for eaves, M&Ms for shingles, and candles in gumdrops. Pamela had taken her own money and ridden her bike to the store and bought gifts for Bud and Brian, even wrapped them herself. We're looking forward to seeing him again this weekend. Too bad they didn't all come last year. Now they couldn't this year. We certainly would like you both to visit us for your vacation. It would be best if you both flew down, for driving is so tiring that it really isn't a vacation. Bud said he thought you were taking your vacation in July. You might enjoy seeing the children and sitting on our porch and the lake here, Lake Erie. We won't rush you around to places if you'd not want to. You might enjoy the boat trip by the steel plants as Bud seemed to. Let us know if you can come. Peter is growing up so quickly. We've decided flying is almost as economical as driving when you count the gas, food, motels, and wear and tear on the people. We leave Thursday and have a double room in a motel in Niagara Falls. Thought the children would enjoy seeing the falls. Then we'll go to Chris's Friday and Saturday to the lake. Back Sunday or Monday. We've had a busy time here. John and Mark went camping a couple of weeks ago. Both girls had birthday parties and drove them to Oberlin to see Illumination, met the Duffs and brought Marion back for a few days, then Patty down to the Duffs for a couple of days. It was her first time away from home and she didn't like it. Then both girls had their dance recital. Were so cute. We had a big party here for the Garretts, 21 people, baby shower. Then John's mother and dad and Grandma Zook were up for dinner that Sunday. The children go to swimming lessons in the morning, off the diving board today, and the Junior Science Center in the afternoon, so we have a busy time. The people across the street had us over Sunday evening. The Shelleys have invited us up to their island in Canada, July 22nd to the 28th, but we may not get away. Let us know if you can come. Love, John, Ruth, Mark, Pamela, Patty, and Peter. 20689 Beechcliff Boulevard, Rocky River, Ohio, July 9th, 1962. Dear Mother and Dad, we're finally recuperating from our trip. Bud may have mentioned that John and Peter had colds. Bud said he brought us the good Canadian kind. Mark and I were getting them towards the end of our visit to Canada. Well, I've never been so glad to get anywhere in my life as to get home to bed, and stayed there for about 3 days with a terrific sore throat and cough. Fortunately, John didn't have to go back to work. Poor Mark has been on the verge of pneumonia again and on an antibiotic, but we're getting better, and the girls didn't get it at all. At the last checkup, both Mark and Pamela gained 10 pounds each and grew 3 1/4 inches during the year, so we must be feeding them anyway. Mark is 58 1/4 inches in height and 73 pounds weight. Pamela is 53 1/4 inches height and 68 1/2 pounds. 5 inches difference and 5 pounds difference. Pamela asked me last night, "When you were a little girl, could you hardly wait until you could do your own housework and have your own family and wonder what it would be like?" She had just said, "Here, Mother, let me do that. That's something I can do." John said, "Maybe we have another Carol." Carol matured at 10 and Pamela's 8. Our goldfish died today and Peter said, "Fishy night-night." It was floating on top of the water. Pamela also said, "You know, it really is better to give than to receive. I had a lot more fun getting and giving Uncle Bud his present than getting mine." She got stung on her head by a bee today at her junior museum class. We had a fine time in Niagara Falls. Stayed at the Foxhead Inn Hotel and had 2 big double rooms. We took the boat trip down by the falls and then went up in the new tower that looks down over the falls, equivalent to about 25 stories high. We also saw rainbows on the falls. Chris had a steak cookout out the back when we arrived. They look out over a lovely ravine. Then we went with them and Pat and Len to the Shakespeare play at Stratford. It was wonderful. I expect Bud has told you the events of the weekend. Yes, Elsie had surprised everyone by coming. There were 37 at Bev's party. Bud made a list for you and took a few slides. Our slides arrived today, too. I have many I've meant to send. I'll have to get them sorted and send you copies. Bud was the only small show in the crowd. We're not so sure about going up to Shelley's Island in Canada after our experience of getting sick. You've really have a problem in Saskatchewan with the doctors. It's been on the news on television every night and the front page of the newspaper. Hope you all stay well during it. John and I asked Bud if you might fly down if we sent the money, but Bud didn't think that would help or was the problem. We've earned and spent over $13,000 so far this year, over $3,000 in income tax so far. Really flies. Pamela was talking about her godfather, Uncle Bud, and Patty said, "Well, who are my grandmothers and grandfathers? What does Grandma Smallshell look like?" Pamela said, "Oh, she looks like Mommy. She's pretty." Mark thought for a moment, and he said, "Yes, she does look like her." And at my amazement, he answered, "Yes, you're pretty." Isn't he a good friend? 1:00 a.m., so good night. Love, Ruth. 20689 Beechcliff Boulevard, Rocky River, Ohio, July 16th, 1962. Dear Mother, Pamela's blouse arrived today and she's thrilled with it. It takes her so long to type her letters or she'd have written herself. Every time she makes a mistake, she begins again. I told her to send it anyway. The blouse fits fine. She takes a size 10. I meant to tell you that the very cute one you made for Patty, Pam liked it so much and the colors went with an orange plaid skirt I bought her so she wore it to school one day and told her teacher you'd made it. Pamela thought it really wonderful that you could. The cup's handle and piece had broken, so John mended it, but she can't drink out of it. Yes, John took the dog back the day before we went to Florida. Everyone cried. Pamela really heartbroken, for she had taken it out in the coldest weather early in the mornings when Mark was sick. Then we had a cat, deaf and blind in one eye from the Stevens, but it jumped up and broke one of my wedding cups, so John took it back to them. The dog was trained indoors, but wrecking all the landscaping and the neighbors' garbage. Peter loved him so, too. Then we had the Whites' hamster while they were on vacation, but when we went to Canada, the little boy caring for it let it fall, and when we got back it died. Then the goldfish died. The turtle is okay. Pam gets the next pet. The Whiteses got back from 3.5 weeks camping out west with the Garretts and Schroeders. They look wonderful. Why don't you fly to Brandon and rent a Hertz car and go to Liz's? Your health isn't worth the bus trip. Hope you're over your cold. Did Bud take that cold home to Janet too? Mark went out for the first time in 2 weeks today. Why don't you fly to Norma some other time of the year by yourself? We still hope you'll fly down here and see the children. We don't have anything planned for the next while. In another year, we'll probably have a baby. We've decided not to go up to the Shelley's Island after our last experience. You wouldn't have to spend any money here. Pam won first prize for the raccoon she made at the Junior Museum. Pamela passed her beginner's swimming test today. She dives off the diving board, swims 20 feet underwater, then on her back across the pool or something like that. We put up a swing and slide set up out the back for the kiddies, took out some of the bushes and moved some back and added hemlocks. I bought a rocking chair for the porch. Tell Bud he'd like that. It matches the other 2 new chairs. Our Mayor Celebrezzi was made National Secretary of Health and Welfare. Very good. Appointed by President Kennedy. His salary, though, will just be $25,000. It's the same now as Mayor of Cleveland. That's not much for a job like that. John will make more than that. As John says, most of the fellows that can afford to go into public service make their money before they go into it. The street out in Bay Village with the woods that I like is cut into now. I don't know if I have the courage to build a new house or not. The Stevens are moving Saturday. They brought Peter a cute little toy radio today. The Diamonds next door have their house up for sale, $48,500. She has cancer. John's Aunt Mary has cancer, the same as Mrs. Tracy, Joan's mother. She's in the hospital. I'd like the ballet picture of Patty back. I didn't think it good enough to get another, but got an extra one of Pam for you to keep. Patty had just got back from the Duffs and was tired and her hair not too nice. We do hope you're better. Take care. Love, John, Ruth, Mark, Pamela, Patty, and Peter. 20689 Beach Cliff Boulevard, Rocky River, Ohio, August 12, 1962. Dear Mother, Mark has finished his week at camp and won 2 awards for archery and 1 for swimming. And now tomorrow, Pamela starts her brownie camp for 2 weeks. Last week, Pamela and Patty went on the bus by themselves to Sandusky, Ohio. John's dad took his vacation, so they had Pamela and Patty, Lisa and Kathy over, took them to Cedar Point, like Disneyland. They came back Saturday, and we took them to Cinerama in the afternoon to see the Grimm Brothers' Life and Fairy Stories. Wonderful! Mrs. Vogler looked after Peter. Then at 5:30, the Summers took us and the Whites sailing. It was a beautiful evening for sailing. And then they had us to their new home for supper. This morning we all went to church, a beautiful day, and went out for dinner. Last Wednesday, Nan Gregory took me sailing in the afternoon, also a lovely day. Then in the evening we went to the Pops concert with Shar and Don. It featured the modern pianists Ferrante and Teicher, over 8,000 people there. Our church organist, who was the Girl Scout leader that I taught art for, is in the hospital with a nervous breakdown, so I've invited 2 of her children here for Tuesday and Wednesday. They are 5 and 4 years old. The plumber begins tomorrow to change all our plumbing to copper, an all-week job. We're glad to hear you plan to visit us, and we'll be glad to send you some of the fare whenever you say. The weather is lovely now. Good night. Love, Ruth. 20689 Beach Cliff Boulevard, Rocky River, Ohio, August 22nd, 1962. Dear Mother and Dad, thank you for the anniversary card. We had a very nice one. Saturday evening, John and Annie Whites had us over to see the slides of their trip west to the Grand Tetons. They had us to their folks' home on the lake since they are in Ireland again. Sunday, John took the children to church. I stayed with Peter, who has a cold. Last week we all went. Then in the evening, John took me to the Statler for a lovely dinner. I had 2 huge lobster tails, delicious. Then we went to Music Man, starring Robert Preston. Remember when I got his autograph when I was about 16? I remember I was so thrilled because he remembered me the next day. It took 22 years for the autograph to be an important one, and I don't think I have it now. We thoroughly enjoyed Music Man. Then we went to Beaucaire's for one of those wonderful sundaes. Coffee ice cream, chocolate sauce, whipped cream and pecans. We took you there. Today is Rocky River Day, races at the park. Mark and his friends worked all day yesterday making a boat float on our wagon for the parade. They couldn't get the mast to stay up, so they are strapping one boy to it as a sailor and then Mark and his friend will act as pirates. Tomorrow is Pam's last day at Brownie Camp, and she's enjoyed it. I've planted some lovely begonias, pretty orange blossoms, also at a cute miniature pepper plant. I took Patty to school yesterday for an interview about starting early. Love, Ruth. To be continued. Well, that concludes today's presentation. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. God bless you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.